It is Tuesday, October 14th, and Antifa's time is over. If you're in Antifa, if you're part of that group, if you help with the financing end of these networks, helping money get from one chapter to the next, I'd be very concerned if I were you. DHS, the FBI, federal law enforcement now dealing with what they're calling a new collaboration between the cartels and Antifa. Reportedly, they say the cartel's now paying these Antifa militants bounties for targeting members of ICE in Chicago. And Barack Obama jumping back in the political arena, simping for Gavin Newsom, agreeing to become the face of Prop 50 in California. Why are they so worried about this? Why is everyone jumping on this Prop 50 bandwagon? We'll show you.
Last week, I did a TV show that apparently got the FBI's attention. The topic was initial investigation, a jumping off point, shattering the myth that Antifa just, it's just leaderless and decentralized. We thought, no, it's really not. So we dove in headfirst and we analyzed the Antifa network, and we went from the street thugs to the support groups, eventually to the funding. Okay. To say the FBI was interested in this might be an understatement. Let's just say the FBI is turning over every single stone. It is so clear to me that they are exploring all angles of this, and they are talking to anyone and everyone that can give them any kind of information. How do I know? Saturday, I get a phone call. The director would like to send over some agents to speak to you, Glenn. And I'm like, the direct FBI agents?
So the federal investigation into Antifa funding networks ramping up, the FBI, DHS, and the new anti-ICE task force zoning in on the dark money NGOs. The FBI even making house calls this weekend, visiting Glenn Beck at his house to learn what he knows about the Tides Foundation and their alleged connection to funding Antifa. We're going to show you that in a minute. But why? How is the FBI so sure that Antifa is being funded like this? How can an entity without any real structure, no EIN number, no LLC, be able to be funded to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars annually, maybe billions in funding? How is that even possible, legal? Well, yesterday evening, footage surfacing showing a U-Haul truck racing into the middle of a crowd of Antifa militants in Portland, stopping and dropping this full load of riot gear and tools, delivering it to the mob of Antifa activists outside the ICE facility. All of it caught on video by independent reporter Nick Shirley. And look, the reason this is important is because it shows that somebody is organizing this, somebody's funding it. Who paid for all these supplies? This coming as Democrats and mainstream media continue to deny Antifa's existence. Previously, they refused to even mention Antifa on the air. But recently, in the last week or two, they're now addressing it. But watch closely how all of a sudden they're using the exact same language, the same terminology to describe them, almost as if they received new talking points. Watch this.
There's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa.
Like, I don't even know what Antifa is. There is no group.
It's not even like far-right groups like the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. Compared to right-wing extremists, Antifa-linked violence is rare and limited.
It isn't an organization. It is a in many ways mythology.
It's not like the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers, sort of defined terrorist organizations with leadership that leads violence.
It's not a highly organized movement. It's a moniker. It's not a unified group like the Proud Boys are.
Things like Antifa are things that are thought up.
It's all in this guise of going after Antifa, which is nothing. There's no organization called Antifa.
Nobody's a member of Antifa because it doesn't exist. They are just declaring into existence something that doesn't exist.
There is no Antifa organization, so maybe that's good for social media. but it really is non-existent.
They exist on the internet in chat rooms and in 4chan and Discord and places like that, where they run discussion boards, trade tactics, documents, things like that. But none of them are called Antifa.
Jimmy Kimmel was one of the worst last week covering Antifa, point blank, lying to his audience, claiming there is no Antifa, there's no such thing, it's an entirely imaginary organization. Watch what he said.
You understand, there's no Antifa. This is an entirely imaginary organization. There is not an Antifa. This is no different than if they announced they rounded up a dozen Decepticons. We've captured the Chupacabra, everyone. And then it was Trump's turn to ratchet up the rhetoric with fiery images conjured from no one has any idea where.
These people are running cover for a terror group, folks. They're now acting as the propaganda arm for Antifa on mainstream networks. So look, Antifa is a real group. They're a decentralized group, but they are real. Ask Andy No. And now, technically, they're designated as a domestic terror group. Minnesota AG Keith Ellison, good friends with Barack Obama, the highest law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota, jumping into the mix over the weekend to proclaim Antifa does not exist. Watch what he said.
So the fact that there is no, nobody even knows what it is. The first person I ever heard use the word Antifa was Donald J. Trump, when he was going on about how there were good people on both sides in Charlottesville. That's the first time I ever heard anyone use the term. So now it's this amorphous thing, and if nobody's really Antifa, then everybody could be. And the reason you can't find them is because they're just that crafty.
So let's get this straight. Antifa doesn't exist, yet they have a flag, they have uniforms, official colors, even official chapter websites. And we know Keith Ellison is a complete liar because in 2018, he posted an image of himself on his Twitter account smiling with a copy of the Antifa handbook. The current AG of Minnesota, clearly at minimum an Antifa apologist. What we can say for sure is Antifa, look, they were structured in this very particular way, purposefully structured to avoid RICO, avoid being targeted by law enforcement at all, the way that the Proud Boys were. They were smart, folks, attempting to keep it running without any clear command and control structure. This is another reason why the FBI stats, by the way, on political violence in this country are so skewed. The right doesn't have an Antifa. They have militias, they have real groups like the Proud Boys, etc. When Antifa, though, commits violence, it's not cataloged as political violence because for over a decade, the U.S. government refused to even acknowledge their existence. Well, those days are over. We've been reporting on the Trump administration's effort to uncover the funding sources behind Antifa, and we've been hearing about the links between the Arabella Group, the Soros Open Society Foundation, even Neville Roy Singham as being likely possible funders of these Antifa chapters. We saw last week Trump's Antifa roundtable with independent journalists who they said had been violently attacked by Antifa. And now yesterday, Glenn Beck revealing the FBI showed up at his front door this weekend to interview him about his knowledge into the Tides Foundation and their alleged link to funding Antifa. Watch this.
To say the FBI was interested in this might be an understatement. Let's just say the FBI is turning over every single stone. It is so clear to me that they are exploring all angles of this, and they are talking to anyone and everyone that can give them any kind of information. How do I know? Saturday, I get a phone call. The director would like to send over some agents to speak to you, Glenn. And I'm like, FBI agents? Yes, you said some things that they need to talk to you about. And I'm like, well, good things or bad things? They'll be over. So they sat in my living room. 3 agents sat in my living room on Saturday afternoon for almost 2 hours. And I immediately called Jason. I'm like, Jason, you're the researcher. It's your fault. I'm going to throw you under the bus. You better get your butt over here. So Jason was there, and my wife and Jason and I sat there, and it was surreal at one point. I talked to him for about 15 minutes just going over the Tides Foundation. and saying, if you understand tides, you'll understand how difficult your job is going to be. And this is information that I first gave on Fox years ago. Let me just say this. Finally, we have an administration and an FBI director that is willing to go in deep, not surface, but deep. I can only imagine what we could have avoided if anyone in an administration would have done this in 2011. But if I were in that imaginary group of Antifa, which, by the way, has imaginary leaders leaving the country to go maybe to imaginary countries outside of the U.S. right now, I would be very concerned. If I were part of anything that was sending money their way or assistance their way, I don't know. I might be a little concerned because the FBI is dead ass serious. Thank you, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, and all of the agents at the FBI.
Then today, DHS announcing that they're now fighting off bounties in real time being placed on ICE agents in Chicago, that they're seeing these bounties pop up issued for specific ICE agents through their intel networks, that narco-terrorists, Latin American cartels now issuing these bounties, offering to pay Antifa members to carry out these acts of violence against ICE. Watch what they're saying.
As we approach it, breaking right now, as we just mentioned, narco-terrorists in Mexico are reportedly working in coordination with domestic extremist groups to place bounties worth thousands of dollars on the heads of federal immigration officers in Chicago. That is according to DHS, who are now slamming what they are calling an organized campaign of terror against agents just trying to do their jobs. Tricia McLaughlin from DHS will join us with more on all of that in moments.
This is getting serious, especially as Democrats refuse to ratchet down the rhetoric, continuing to compare ICE to the Gestapo, calling them racist and authoritarian. California Governor Gavin Newsom this afternoon releasing this new ad for his Prop 50 campaign, accusing Trump of carrying out a military takeover of American cities. Watch this.
You guys are framing this like the president wants to take over the American cities with the military.
We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military. Last month I signed an executive order to provide training for a quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. So this is going to be a big thing. It's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. They like to say, oh, you're not allowed to use the military. We haven't even started yet.
And speaking about Gavin Newsom and Prop 50, guess who's now taking up the mantle and campaigning for mid-decade redistricting in California? Former President Barack Obama telling his 130 million ex-followers that Prop 50, he says, puts our elections back on a level playing field and preserves independent redistricting over the long term. Really, Barack? Over the long term. See how he said that? Because that's the exact opposite of what Prop 50 will do.
California, the whole nation is counting on you. Democracy is on the ballot November 4th. Republicans want to steal enough seats in Congress to rig the next election and wield unchecked power for 2 more years. With Prop 50, you can stop Republicans in their tracks. Prop 50 puts our elections back on a level playing field, preserves independent redistricting over the long term, and lets the people decide. Return your ballot today. Vote yes on 50.
California redistricting is already handled by an independent commission. Prop 50 reverses that process, albeit temporarily. It says for the next 5 years, we'll let Democrats redraw the lines politically to erase any Republican representation. That's basically what it says. And we'll only do it, though, we'll only cheat for 5 years. Then we'll go back to the independent commission. Pretty crazy. And why? Why are Dems going all in on this? Why are they so nervous about these upcoming elections? Because Prop 50 succeeding is their last chance of fending off a bloodbath in the midterms next year. Even if Prop 50 does succeed, they're still set to come up short. But they'll have a chance. Watch.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country's divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas, 1. New Hampshire, 1. And Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only one congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some ways. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
Yeah.
So yes, Barack Obama's getting involved. Everyone's getting involved to make sure California eliminates any semblance of fair elections, erasing what little sliver remains of Republican representation in that state. It's a race to the bottom. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.